A controversial tactic used by the Kansas Highway Patrol during traffic stops is no longer considered constitutional. Tonight, Factfinder investigates a permanent injunction on what's known as the Kansas two-step. It happens when a state trooper ends a traffic stop by starting to walk away, then comes back, giving them another chance to come up with a reason to search someone's car. Here's Factfinder reporter Brock Wilson.
The police, when they stop you for a traffic violation, are limited to what the traffic violation is about, and they can't extend that stop any longer than that.
Wichita attorney Charlie O'Hara says that's where the Kansas two-step comes in.
The Highway Patrol believes that if they stop you and then they are done, it becomes a consensual encounter when they walk 2 steps away and say, hey, by the way, can I ask you some questions?
Then, if a person says something incriminating, a trooper can search their car. But this week, U.S. District Judge Catherine Vredel granted a permanent injunction, saying the two-step violates drivers' constitutional rights. The ACLU has been instrumental in the case and gave us this statement. The Kansas Highway Patrol is not above the law. While KHP made various attempts to sidestep accountability for its practices and put off this injunction, the Constitution has prevailed. O'Hara says now, as long as you're not doing anything suspicious, troopers must limit their interactions with you to matter related to the traffic stop.
If it's just a regular traffic stop, they're supposed to be confined to that, and I'm hopeful, I think everybody will follow the order of the court.
We've reached out to the Kansas Highway Patrol for a statement. It says at this time it cannot provide a statement due to the order being under internal review and review by the Attorney General. A new scam to warn you about so you don't fall for it. The Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office says it involves people who call and identify themselves as employees of the Sheriff's Office. They falsely tell you that you've missed jury duty. The scammers say you have to pay a fine to avoid being arrested. The Sheriff's Office says it never asks for payment of any fines over the phone. It also says scammers can manipulate caller ID to make a phone call look legitimate. In a farm field off the highway north of Cherryville, there is a search to learn more about a 150-year-old murder mystery. A family on the Kansas frontier welcoming in some weary travelers only to end their journey. It's a story that's captured the attention of an Independence, Kansas man. Factfinder senior reporter Sean Logging has a look at the renewed efforts to uncover the truths of the Bloody Benders.
Walk down here and see.
When Bob Miller steps foot in his field, his focus lies on what is underground.
The pottery and the glass was just all on the ground.
He's been collecting these artifacts since he bought the land in 2020 in hopes of learning more about its unsavory past.
My goal is to find out where was the cabin and the cellar, where was the Osage Trail, the burial grounds, the grave sites, the wells, and try and add to the stories.
More than 150 years ago, on a 162-acre plot of land north of Cherryville, once sat the home of the serial-killing family known as the Bloody Benders.
Years ago, Cherryville had a museum and they had a replica cabin of the Benders back in the 1960s and 70s, and I visited that and was real intrigued.
In the early 1870s, the Benders settled here on the Osage Trail, the 2 elder Benders and their son John Jr. and daughter Kate. Bob says the Benders offered up their home as a place for travelers to stay and get a warm meal.
Then somebody behind this curtain who would hit them in the head. But as you can see, it was a very small home.
Then they would slit their throat, in many cases so deep, and if you can get the idea of what a Pez dispenser looks like, that's about how bad it was from what we read. And then they would bleed them out in the cellar through the trap door and then bury them at night.
There were at least 11 victims documented during the 3 years. Bob says they were often people traveling alone and with money.
It's kind of like a black hole of the day.
It was after the murder of a prominent doctor, Bob says attention turned to the Benders, and the family ran.
Some say they caught a train in Thayer, which is about 10 miles north of here, and then vanished into thin air.
As with any good mystery, there's still a lot of questions, and Bob hopes to find some answers. He's working with the KU Department of Anthropology and the Kansas Geological Survey.
Historical records are kind of patchy. They don't tell us a whole story, and so archaeology can really go in and assist to tell us a lot about the everyday.
Dr. Lauren Norman is one of the people working on this project. She says this past summer, a colleague with KGS and students did some remote sensing on the land to focus their search.
We aren't just interested in the artifacts that we get out. If we were, we could take a backhoe and then just get all the artifacts. But we're interested in the context.
After narrowing their search area down from 160 plus acres to just about 3 or 4, the next step will come in May when Lauren and her students will be back out in this field trying to dig up more evidence of the Bender homestead.
That's what I'm kind of hoping to do is really to test if the historic record and what the newspapers were printing at the time was true.
She says in addition to the Benders, something else they're likely to learn about is the thousands of tourists who, after the Benders were discovered, came and essentially ripped the place apart.
We know that it's only been farmed for the last 80 years, so it's been plowed a little bit. That doesn't impact things too much, but the biggest impact will probably have been these tourists who were so interested in these kind of really gruesome events that they really flocked to the site.
It's steps getting Bob closer to uncovering this past.
We just want to find out what has the ground been hiding for 150 years.
Though it's still expected to take a few more years. For Factfinder Investigates, I'm Sean Logging.
The dig in May is expected to last 2 weeks to even a month. Some additional remote sensing is also expected next summer. Bob says he hopes long-term that this will benefit the local community, even bringing in some new tourism.
This is not a computer issue. I'm a human. I'm having human issues.
A lawsuit claims a major insurance company used a computer system to quickly process claims in an average of just over 1 second each. Our team looks into permission to pay next on Factfinder Investigates.